Welcome to another episode of Bringing the Law to Your Doorstep. Today, we're going to talk about the legal framework of food businesses in the UK.
Yeah,
And I'm super excited to have you here because when you're here, we leave here with a lot of knowledge. So
yeah.
I'm really glad you're here today.
Thanks for
So
having me.
you're welcome.
Yeah,
Yeah. There've been a lot of questions from our viewers, so we want you to give us some answers to the questions that you've been asking us. Um, one of the questions that they've been asking is, what are the first legal and step someone can take to start a business, a food business in the UK?
okay. So this is an interesting question. Unlike many other businesses or industries, if you like, the food industry is a regulated area. And because it's regulated, there are a lot of rules and regulations that are to be followed. However, if you're looking at starting a food business, it's mandatory that you need to register with your local council at least 28 days before the start of the business. That one is a non-negotiable. And after that, depending on the structure of the business, if you want to go into sole business, if you want to have it in the form of a company or in the form of a partnership, you would also need to make that decision to determine how you legally register or you legally run the business. So yeah, it's mandatory that the local council registration has to be done, and the kind of structure that you'd want the food business to also take. Like I said, if it's in the form of a partnership, if it's in the form of a sole business or a company, that is also a factor. And you'd also need to register with the HMRC as well.
Okay. So, can a food business legally operate from a home kitchen in the UK? And if so, what restrictions
Okay.
are there?
Yeah. So, anytime we mention food businesses, stereotypically in the minds of people, they think you always need to get a physical space. You need to rent out a space
Yeah.
before you can do a food business. But yeah, in the UK, you can start from the comfort of your home.
Mm.
Okay, the most important thing is that you're meeting the requirements for registration, local council registration, like I said, and hygiene. So if you register with your home address, what happens is that there are authorized offices
Mhm.
or environmental health officers that might come to your home within that 28 days to inspect the place and to make sure that the place is right and meets the hygiene standards for you to set up your business. So yeah, you can start from your home kitchen as long as you are compliant and you meet the rules.
What registrations,
Yeah,
license,
yeah.
notifications are required before selling food to the public?
Okay. So there are no specific licenses. Of course, unless you selling things like alcohol
Right.
and other types of yeah, food in this particular context.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have to know that anything intended for human consumption, when you read the Food Safety Act, as long as it's going to be ingested by humans, it's qualified as food.
Right.
Okay, but once you're done with the local council registration, one thing which is not mandatory, but which could also help you is that when it comes to food hygiene, there are a couple of qualifications that you could get. And the level two is more or less becoming the standard.
Mm.
So if you're able to run through some courses to get the level two qualification, that can go a long way to also help your food business.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. So, if we understood you
Yeah.
correctly, you don't really need a license
Yeah.
to start.
Yeah, to start,
Right.
I wouldn't call that a license properly so
Okay.
called. You would need an approval from the local council.
Okay.
Yes, and depending on the type of food, like I said, I mentioned if you're into the sale of liquor
Yeah.
and stuff like that,
That's when
the
you need a
regulation, yeah,
license.
the
Right.
regulations are different.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you just want to start a food business, there is nothing like you need that license to.
Okay.
Yeah, you just need an approval from your
The
local
local.
council.
Right.
Then you go through the necessary registration processes to be able to launch your food
And
business.
another question as well is, if you're doing it from your home,
Yeah.
are there anything that you need to make sure that you for example, letting your landlord know,
Yeah,
is that a must?
that's a very good question.
Right.
So obviously, if you're renting and
Yeah.
you're going to be using the kitchen at that particular space, you need an approval from your landlord.
Okay.
Okay, so it can be a clause in the tenancy agreement that, yeah, you're going to be using the kitchen for preparation of food and, I mean, commercial purposes in a sense. So
Right.
if your landlord gives you that approval, there can be a clause in the tenancy agreement which accommodates that,
Okay.
then you can proceed from there. Otherwise, if you have your own house, if you have your own mortgage, I mean, you do things on your own volition.
Yeah,
So you
obviously
only,
it's yours.
yeah, you only need that approval. So yeah.
Right. So another question a lot of people have been asking
Yeah,
is the label.
yeah.
Can you, tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. So like I said, the food industry is heavily regulated.
Right.
Labeling is a non-negotiable when it comes to pre-packed food. So if the food is going to be packaged before it reaches the final consumer, it's mandatory under the Food Safety Act and under an EU law called the Rule 178 that you should label that particular food. When I talk about labeling, I'm talking about highlighting all the allergens in
Right.
that particular food.
Okay.
I don't know if you're, I think I've mentioned this to you, the case of Natasha Laparus.
Yes.
Yeah, so in 2016, there was an issue like that of a young lady who purchased a baguette from one of these well established joints. And quite unfortunately, it had sesame seeds in there. She was
She was
allergic to
allergic
it.
to it,
And
yeah.
after she consumed it, it's quite unfortunate, but she lost her life. And there were a lot of political discussions surrounding that. But because there were a lot of campaigns in her honor, they launched what is widely known as the Natasha Law. Okay, and according to that law, it's now mandatory that if you are selling food and there are any allergens in there, any of the 14 allergens in there, those allergens must be categorically listed so that before the consumer purchases it, they have an idea of what they are taking into their system.
Yeah.
So that is the whole system of labeling. It's a non-negotiable. Food must actually be labeled.
Yeah. I think it's a good thing as well, so that
Yeah,
you cover yourself as you know, as a seller,
yeah.
so that if anything happened, you know that you labeled it, so that if the person didn't read it, that's
Indeed,
yeah.
indeed.
So
That's
it's
technically on them.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
which is good.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
a good one.
yeah. Because as a seller, there is something called duty of care. You have a duty of care towards your consumers. Okay, so you have to make sure that food is sold in the most hygienic of conditions, and that after consumption, there are not going to be any ripple effects.
Okay.
So it's your responsibility. You owe that to the consumer. I
Right.
think the questions might delve into other areas of things that food operators are supposed to take notice of. So I'm not going to jump the gun, but
Okay.
labeling is one of them. Like I said, it's a non-negotiable. Yeah.
Is there any certificate that one must have before they start to sell?
Okay. So with certification, I wouldn't say it's mandatory,
Okay.
but from my experience, it is really helpful. You know,
Right.
I mentioned the level 2 food hygiene certificate. There is the Nationwide Caterers Association here in the UK, and they run a lot of courses for people who are interested in starting food businesses. So it's very important if you have the technical knowledge on things like you mentioned, labeling. Of course, I mean there's traceability, but I won't jump the gun. We're going to discuss that
Okay.
very soon. But they teach you all these things to be able to make sure that at the end of the day, the food is delivered in the best of conditions and is safe for human consumption. So
Right.
the level 2 food hygiene certificate and a couple of others would complement your business and would help you in running a safe business. But it's not necessarily a prerequisite, but it's a helpful one. So yeah, that's how it works.
now we're moving from you
Yeah,
selling food from the comfort of your home,
yeah,
but now you have a venue where you sell
yeah,
food.
yeah.
Are there any rules and regulations? Are there any things that we need to know
Okay.
before we start?
Yes. So these are the things that people should know. We can't talk about food without
It looks like
mentioning
it's really broad.
it's
Like
broad.
we can't take one day to talk about.
Indeed. Indeed. I think we have to run this through a series because
Yeah.
the laws on food, there are so many.
Right.
But the few ones I'm going to talk about is, of course, we have to look at the Food Safety Act of 1990. And when you read Section 7 of that act, it criminalizes serving food or selling food, let me put it that way, if it is unfit for human consumption or if it's going to be, in the words of the law, injurious to human health. Okay, so it's actually a crime if you are involved in the preparation of food, in the processing of food, and you add anything to it or you take anything from it, in this particular context, ingredients or any chemical in the treatment of the food, such that after consumption it becomes unfit. It has, I mean, yes, negative effects on the health of the consumer, or it becomes unfit for human consumption. It is a crime, and that is Section 7. Now, when you look at the EU law, the 178, when you read Article 14 of that particular provision, I have to mention these things because these are very important provisions that people need to know about. Now, food that is unsafe for human consumption is not supposed to be put on the market. Now, we're going to ask ourselves that when we say food is unsafe, what does it mean? Now, the law pays attention to the general conditions of use for the consumer, okay, from processing the food to production to distribution. At every particular stage of the food chain, food is supposed to be safe and should be in the best of hygienic conditions.
Right.
That is number one. And the second thing is that at the time when the consumer is also purchasing the food, the knowledge that is made available to him should not in any shape or form mislead him, okay, or should not in any shape or form cause him to purchase the food if you make any information known to him which is false.
Right.
And that is why the labeling is very important. That is where it comes into the picture. So, for instance, if I'm involved in the sale of baby food or involved in the sale of oats or porridge or whatever it is, now the law expects that if I am labeling, I must indicate all of the allergens in there. Or if I'm rendering any information to the consumer, the information should be transparent and should be 100%.
Right.
So that at the end of the day, if I tell people that, oh, there's no pepper in this, or there's just a little pepper, and I'm selling that food to a child, and they rely on that representation and they buy the food, should there be any consequences, you are going to be held liable. So these are some of the things that people also need to know. Yeah.
I really want you to give us a presentation on. Let's say today, I have a place where I want to start
Yeah.
a food business.
Yeah.
If you can just tell us step by step what to do to help us run a successful, law free, like not be in a
The
problem.
problem with the law and all that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've mentioned some of the things about the registration with the local council, and when it comes to observing the regulations, things like labeling. There is also another thing called traceability. Okay, so that if I'm a bakery, for instance, and I'm involved in baking pastries or bread, the law expects that as as a shop or as a food operator, I should be able to trace where I get the food from.
Okay.
So I should have a system in place, a robust documentation process in place that is able to track my suppliers up to the point of consumption. So it means that I should be able to know where I get my raw materials and my ingredients from, my flour, my eggs. I should be able to trace where I got these from, and I should have a system in place to be able to track who I sold what to.
Okay.
So that's the
So that
element
means
of
you've got to document everything.
most definitely.
Right.
Most
Okay.
definitely. That's also a non negotiable. In fact, even before you set up the food business, there is something called the food management system.
Okay.
Okay, it looks into hazards, like proactive steps you are going to take should any hazard happen, things that you are going to do, and there are elements of the food safety management system that incorporate traceability, like I'm talking to you about. Yeah, so you should be able to trace where you got your food from and the final destination, which will be the consumer who you sold the food to. That's also another thing that should be taken into consideration. There is one thing I'm also going to mention that, sometimes when we are looking at the harmful effect of food, we contemplate that once you take in the food, if you don't get sick, maybe within a day or two, then it means, you're okay. Yeah. But there are circumstances where certain types of food contain chemicals called carcinogens, for instance. Okay, so they have the tendency of even causing cancer. And you know that the food laws have been structured in a way that when we say that food is fit for human consumption, it's not only for the immediate consumer. The law expressly mentions future generations. So that if you are selling food, for instance, to pregnant women, you are not only looking at the pregnant woman as a final consumer of the food shouldn't generate any negative effect, even up on the unborn child. And the food law takes into context all of these factors. There are certain types of food that won't have an effect on you immediately when you take it, but they have ripple effects over the years. So that you can eat food from one joint, you'll be okay, maybe one, two, three times. But if you eat it over a period of 6 months, that is when you realize that no, you literally harming yourself. And the law
Because you've
takes
consumed it for a very long
for a
time.
very long time.
Right.
For a very long time. Yes. I think that the law expressly also mentions that, yeah, in the EU laws, the rule 178, it's in there that you look at the probable cumulative toxic effects. That is the wording of the law. So that when you take the food once, you could be okay, but if it has the tendency of giving you issues after you taking it over a period of time, then that also has to be checked. So that is one thing that you can also look at.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
A lot of information today.
Yeah, I hope it helps all of us.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so another question that I have on here is how does the UK food hygiene rating system work?
So the food rating system, I think it's A-star. Yeah, if you are rated by the authorized officers, definitely it will boost the reputation of your business.
Okay.
Okay, so I think when you enter into certain eateries, they have all their rating systems and everything there. So it's just to say that you've met a certain level when it comes to hygiene and compliance and in meeting with the regulations that we have under food. So it's just there for reputation and also to give the consumers a certain kind of confidence and trust in you. So that is also important. Yeah, if your rating is not so good, I don't think it would influence people to patronize your food joint or whatever it is you have at the time. So yeah, the rating is also an important factor.
So, when
Yeah,
it comes to hygiene,
yeah,
right, and with food, I know you can have, for example, chicken together with meat or
great,
tomatoes together
great.
with, yeah, because I
Yeah,
know they are strict with
yeah,
that
yeah,
when they
yeah, yeah,
come
yeah.
to do the
Yeah,
check.
yeah. So what you mentioned is called cross contamination,
Yes.
and this brings a case I dealt with in mind. I had opportunity to represent a client, yeah, and the issue that the environmental health officers had with her is that when they entered a shop, they saw the fresh chicken and the tomatoes and everything stored in one place.
Wow.
And they literally seized everything. And there were some issues of labeling in there too.
Okay.
Okay, so even in the compartment, in the fridge compartment, you can't store certain foods within the same space. You should have a space for keeping fresh meat. You should have a space for keeping fresh vegetables. You should actually separate the vegetables. Okay,
From the
yes,
meat.
from the meat.
Wow.
There is a way things are supposed to be done
Okay.
so that there is no issue of cross contamination or anything, because certain types of food do not coexist together
Yeah.
peacefully, if I'm allowed to say that. Okay, yeah.
It's true.
At times there are issues of putrefaction, contamination, and when that happens, that could be a problem for you. So I had to represent this particular client. The environmental health officers were there, and these were some of the issues that we had to deal with. So it's important that for food operators, that's why I advise people that it's always important to get a lawyer
Yeah.
if you want to have a
I
successful
agree.
business.
I so
Indeed,
agree.
yeah, because the UK is very strict
Yeah.
and stringent when it comes to observing some of these food laws, and people might not necessarily have the technical knowledge about it, but that's the reason why law firms like Kingscourt Law, yeah, are there to be able to help people navigate their businesses successfully.
Great. I think that's one. I feel like that is really important if you're starting a food business. Like hygiene is something we might we I think we have to stretch on it one day when we
Indeed.
come. We talk only about
About
hygiene
hygiene.
because it's very important.
Yeah,
Even me personally, when I go
yeah,
and buy food
yeah,
from our African shop
yeah,
and the hygiene is
yeah.
bad, I'll just leave because I'm
Okay.
like, you can't be selling this
Yeah.
in this
In this
hygiene, like this
environment, yeah.
this bad environment.
Yeah.
So another question that people have is, what are the main UK food laws and regulations that startups often overlook?
Okay. So when it comes to this subject, I always tell people that, yeah, I mean, I'll mention the food laws, but it's always important to have regulatory lawyers assisting your business to explain practically how these laws work for you. But definitely, we have the Food Safety Act 1990.
Okay.
That's there. We have the Regulation 178. The Regulation 178 was already, it's still an EU law, and you know that post Brexit, yeah, we know UK exited the EU. Some of these laws were retained. So they are simulated laws, but they still apply largely in the UK. So the Regulation 178 is also very powerful. When you look at some provisions like Article 14 in there, it talks about not putting food on the market, like I said, if it's not safe for human consumption. Yeah, so that's a very powerful law here. And there are a couple of other food laws too. But principally we're looking at the Food Safety Act 1990 and the Regulation 178 in the UK. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So another question that we have on here is, what legal uh, structure is usually most suitable for a startup food business?
Oh, okay. When you're starting as a sole trader, I think it's easy because it's just you,
Less paperwork.
less paperwork, less paperwork.
Yeah.
Yes, and I mean it's the simplest compared to you establishing a company,
Limited.
yeah, a company and a partnership and all of
Yeah.
that. But I mean, different things work for different people. If you
Right.
think that you can collaborate with people to establish a partnership, that works. If you think for liability reasons, a company as a separate legal entity can be sued. So it means you can take yourself out of the picture, and the company is being dealt with in case there are legal issues and stuff like that. If that works for you, that is fine. So it depends on who wants to establish the business and what works for them.
Are they industries, association, or professional bodies that food business should join for support? Um,
Yeah, I mentioned the Nationwide Caterers Association. Yeah, if you go on their website, for instance, most of these training courses are there. They provide a lot of support for people, and I think for people who would also want to rent spaces to be able to continue their food businesses. Some of these spaces come with the machines and the equipment you need for food.
Yeah.
So you rent everything together. Okay, and some of these associations can provide you with information on how to be able to, yeah, to get access to all these things. Yeah, there is also another one on hospitality and a few others. Yeah, but there are a couple of associations you could join that could help you in successfully running a food business.
Okay. I have a lot of people asking about sponsorship.
Yeah.
So can people who start food business, can they use that to self sponsor themselves? Is if you can.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to self sponsorship or sponsorship, because there's nothing like self sponsorship, it's
Yeah.
just because of the way it works.
Okay.
Yeah. When it comes to self sponsorship, regardless of the business or the industry you are into, that could be used as a route
Okay.
to self sponsor yourself.
Okay.
So the food business is a prime example. Okay, so you can set up the business, then once you meet the compliance and get all the required documentation, yeah, you can decide to apply for the sponsor license. Okay, so we have a sister company called Compliance 360. They've assisted a lot of people to successfully register their business. So all the mandatory documents that you need, the supplementary documents that you need, they can prepare all of that for you to be able to successfully run the food business. Then Ken Scott Law, as a law firm, will in turn apply for the sponsor license for you for your business. So once you get the license, you can then sponsor yourself as a skilled worker of your own business. And there are a lot of codes in there, occupation codes in there, depending on the role you are going to assume in the business, that can help you transition onto the skilled worker visa in the name of your business. So it's something that can be done.
Okay. That's a good thing to know.
Yeah.
Let's say if someone has a business, food
Yeah.
business, and want to work towards having sponsorship, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the things like you talked about your sister
Yeah.
companies?
Yeah.
So would you advise that person to first of all work with them and then come to your law firm?
Yeah, ideally, that is how it works.
Okay.
Okay, and I don't want it to seem like I'm just using this platform to just advertise for Compliance 360 or anything. I mean, people can read the reviews to be able to weigh their performance.
Okay.
Yeah, and they will know that they are great at what they do. Otherwise, if people want to also explore other options, that is fine. But you need to be able to meet the requirements to successfully trade as a business, get all the relevant documentations first before you engage any law firm to be able to help you acquire the sponsor license.
Right.
So yeah, it's always start to get that half done first before you move to the next half of it.
But I think it's always good when you don't know what to do to go to the right people that
Yeah.
know what you need to do to. Because some people, when you tell them to go and read,
Yeah.
they might read A, but later they'll be doing B. But when you go to the
Yeah.
right firm, they
Yeah.
can direct you in the right way to do the right
Yeah.
things.
And
So
and that is really painful. Now, not to even cut you short. Sometimes people try the DIY. You know, they try to
cut corners.
oh my goodness. They will try to do everything. Then at the 11th hour, when things have gotten out of hand, that is when they will call you, oh, Loima, oh, Casey, I want to do this, I want to do that. At
Yeah.
that time, in as much as we're able to help people, some of the situations, I mean, you can't resuscitate it.
Yeah.
It's worse. They get things messed up. There's literally nothing that you can do at that time. So I always advise people that, hey, I mean, you don't have to come to us, but you make sure that right at the beginning of your food business, you consult the experts to be able to steer you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming today, Lawyer Yima. I feel like when it comes to food, we have to have other episodes
Indeed, indeed, indeed,
because it's a long topic.
indeed, indeed,
So thank you
indeed.
very much for coming today. I really
It's an honor
appreciate
to be
you.
here.
It's
Thank you.
always good to have you here
Yeah, yeah, the feeling is mutual.
because I always walk away, and I believe you guys watching us, you're definitely walking away
Hopefully,
today with a
hopefully.
lot of knowledge. So please do the right thing. Contact the right people, and trust me, you're not going to go wrong when you contact King's Court Law. Okay, they're the best. I'm a witness. I've got testimonies. Can never go wrong.
Yeah.
So thank
And
you for coming.
just to brag just a little bit. You know where
You're allowed to
you
brag.
know we're recently nominated for the Modern Clio Awards. We're
Oh
finalists
wow,
in the boutique law firm of the year,
that's
and
awesome,
as well as innovation of the year. So yeah, I think
guys.
that is something
Imagine
worth mentioning.
it is definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right.
yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. I
Thanks for
really
having me.
appreciate it. Take
Okay.
care.